The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports. You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast.
A funeral for the 2025 Yankees, who could not step it up when we needed them to. How dare you? We're going to talk about everything that happened in this game. And we'll talk about the other, at least the Tigers woke up in their game. So we'll talk about that later in the show. And we'll talk to you guys in the chat. Let's all commiserate. Let's all complain. Remember when Steve co-hosted with me? We always joked about it being a Locked On therapy session because it was 2023 and they didn't do well in 2023. So this is going to be our Locked On therapy session for late night October 8th into October 9th, 2025. So, Brian, do you know what one of my biggest baseball pet peeves is?
Oh, I mean, there's a ton. No, I don't know what your biggest one is.
When someone works a walk and the next batter swings at the first pitch and hits an out, a pop-up, fly out, whatever it is, but swinging at the first pitch and making an out, is
at Austin Wells
one of my biggest pet peeves, other than 0-2 to 3-2 or 0-2 to a hit. Yeah, that's when I was livid. And then after that, I was like, well, they're not coming back, so it doesn't matter. But I was livid. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves during the regular season. And if I were his manager and this were the regular season and they had another game coming up tomorrow, I would have benched his Tookus, because how do you do that? And Austin Wells is normally smarter than that. He's one of the guys who does like 6 or 7 pitch at bats and works pitchers. And I just could not believe that he did that. Yeah, I mean, I know there were many reasons why they lost tonight. They had 2 hits until the 8th inning or whatever it was, the 7th inning. You can't win a game when you don't hit the ball. So
no, I mean, people are going to disagree with this, and that's fine. But the only Yankee who showed up to play today was Aaron Judge.
Pretty much,
that's the truth.
And Jason Dominguez.
Yeah, actually, Jason Dominguez had a nice hit there in the 9th.
We'll get to that later too, because that's another.
First time he sees the field in the postseason. Yeah, like I said it in the short that we just released, previewing this show. We'll have plenty of time to discuss, the offseason and what moves they're gonna make and yada yada and what needs to be done. But
yeah,
to go from being in the World Series last year to losing in 4 games in the ALDS, you want to talk about how great Game 3 was and the comeback and everything. First of all, that game got to 6-1. So let's just reference that too. I mean, that game shouldn't have been 6-1 when you needed to win. But regardless, everything that happened in that game that was so magical is gone. It's erased. Who cares? They didn't come back. The game means nothing.
Right. It just means they didn't get swept out of the division series. That's all it means.
Which, great. Who cares? That's at the end of the day.
A loss is a loss.
This was a gutless effort from quite frankly, a gutless team.
Yeah. Gutless with a gutless manager who still makes dumb moves that I can't even. Why are you trotting Anthony Volpe out there?
He was the worst player on the field
with 10 strikeouts. He had 3 strikeouts in each of the last 3 games.
Yeah. I think he struck out in like 12 of his last 14 at-bats.
Yes.
Total.
Yes.
I mean, that's as bad as it gets.
And
he's completely lost.
Fox even showed that one guy in the crowd when he didn't swing at the one pitch that was down the middle and the guy was saying swing, and then he swings at the breaking pitch and looks completely feeble and gets booed off the field. Whose fault is that? I think it's Boone's fault. Why was he playing?
And they force-fed him too the entire postseason. Force-fed into the lineup.
He did make that amazing catch. I'll give him that. I will say, as bad as he was offensively, he was great defensively. And you know how we talk about that, right? We talk about the fact that sometimes when guys don't play well offensively, it can affect them defensively. It happened to Glaber a few times, and it tends to happen in some cases. But for Volpe, he was fantastic defensively, and maybe that's why they kept trotting him out there. But then, Boone will make a dumb move like taking Ryan McMahon out, putting Rosario in, which, by the way, he got the hit, right? But then the very next inning, the ball that's hit towards him probably would have at least been stopped by McMahon if he couldn't have gotten Kirk out. But no, it was enough. How many leadoff doubles did the Blue Jays have, by the way? Did it feel like they always had a leadoff double?
And also, Stacey, not everyone on your bench is an upgrade to who's already in the game.
Right.
Like, I didn't. Rosario's a fine player, but he's a bench player. He's not a 400 hitter. Why is he going in late? Was he the
and it wasn't even
factor
that late
in the game?
Right.
Yeah, that made no sense to me. I mean, a lot of moves just made, just weird stuff going on in this game. Managerial wise, the whole go out to Cam Schlittler and then talk to him and then go back to as if Cam forced himself to stay in the game made no sense. It felt like Boone was trying to rally up the crowd or get people involved and stuff by having the pitcher want to stay in the game. But Cam Schlittler looked like he didn't carry the way whether he stayed in the game or not. He didn't
Right.
say to Boone, "No, I'm staying in." He wasn't get forceful on him. He was like, "What do you want to do?"
By the way, can we give it a hand to Cam Schlittler being the
great.
only starter that
great.
lasted until the 7th inning? And I know the Jazz play didn't help, and it was 4 runs, but 2 earned. But Cam Schlittler did better than Carlos Rodon, Max Fried, and Luis Heel.
Cam Schlittler makes $825,000 this year. Max Fried and Carlos Rodon have 2 contracts that combine for over $350 million. And Cam Schlittler was better than both of those guys.
Yeah.
You want to throw Heel in there too? Why not? He was better than all 3 of them. Schlittler was great in this game. 2 runs. He gave them a chance to win the game. He did.
Yeah.
They didn't give themselves a chance to win the game. If you're going to score, I don't even know what the final tally was. I honestly don't care.
5-2.
Yeah, whatever. You can't score 2 runs and expect to win to win postseason games. It's not how baseball works. And
no.
Again, we can sit here and complain.
Well, I mean, you can if you can keep the other team from scoring.
Yeah, but not this Blue Jays team.
No,
they're
you
not
can't
do
stop them from scoring.
Team.
Oh, I will give Cam Schlittler credit. He was the only Yankee pitcher, or the first Yankee pitcher, to strike out Vlad Jr. So good for you. We found someone who could finally get him out.
Yeah. I mean, he was incredible the entire series. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all. He was great.
He was on a mission.
Yeah,
defensively and offensively.
You know who didn't kill them? Springer. I mean, other than the home run in game 1, Springer wasn't crazy, but
the leadoff double, and then Vlad got him in. So that set the tone for the game.
Their depth pieces, though, which was great in this series, though. Kirk was awesome. Varsho was awesome.
Oh yeah, Miles Straw comes in. He gets an RBI. It's like
a lot of that kind of stuff. And their pitching's not very good. It's not. Like I can sit here and say even the Yankees lost. It's still the truth. Look what their bullpen did yesterday. I know Blue Jays fans are going to kill me for this, and they're going to go at me and they still won the series. They did. I know. I'm acknowledging that. Yankees are out and they stink, but it doesn't make the Blue Jays bullpen elite either. And let's address.
Okay, wait. Okay. The Yankees don't stink. They won 94 games. Okay, this is the thing about the playoffs. You can have a bad string of games in the playoffs, and it will cause you to get knocked out. Because how many Yankee teams in the 2000s were considered really good and they got knocked out in the first round? Like, it happens. Well, it's baseball. It's the playoffs.
This postseason was very indicative of how their entire season went. That's my complaint. Like this wasn't, and those 2000s teams were very good teams and consistent throughout the entire season. And then just happened to meet up a team that was playing really well at the time, or bad matchups, whatever you want to call it. And
right. Like they'd have like a bad 3 games set, and it's like, well, that's all it takes for you.
This was the team not hitting, not scoring when they needed to, being quite frankly a gutless team mimicking their manager,
and just the bad at bats too.
Yeah, horrible at bats, horrible approaches.
Yes.
And one more thing, I feel like it's almost poetic that the pitcher who's in when the Yankees decide to give it all up and really end the game for good, Devin Williams.
Yeah.
Devin Williams. So it was a lot of that. I do feel like this series was very indicative of how they were as a team. I know they won 94 games. Dare I say, it's a very fluky 94 games. When you watch this entire season and cover them as much as we do, and watch all 162 like we did, and everything. We did a show covering every single game this season. when you look back on it, 94 feels like a lot, right?
Well, it
Think
is.
about
It's
how
one of the highest winning totals.
No. I'm saying 94 feels like a lot for how they played throughout the entire season.
Oh, yeah.
This never felt like a 94 win team. When you look at their record at the end of the year and you kind of gather your emotions of the last 6 months of how they played, it does not feel like they were a 94 win team.
Well, I made the joke that they were good in April and May. They were bad in June and July. They were good in August and September. And it just felt natural that October would be the time where they fall apart because they were entering another 2-month period where this would be the bad time. And it was the bad time.
Thank God it doesn't go till November.
Yeah, it was the bad time. The good thing is, now that I'm much older, I can get over this within 5 seconds. Like I just flipped the channel. I'm like, all right, whatever. If this were 20 years ago, I would have thrown something at a wall after Wells's at bat. I would have broken something.
My reaction, I guess, as a younger, more emotional person at this state in my life, I tried switching TVs. So I moved from like the den room that we have to the living room to try and like take up the mojo.
Yeah.
For the 8th inning, I turned the TV off and I put it on my iPad to try and change it up. That didn't do anything either.
Yeah.
And then I put the TV back on to watch them lose. It was I've often said this before, mainly to friends of mine. I'm not that rude, but I'm not afraid of getting into new romantic relationships in my life because no woman can hurt me as much as my sports teams have. This is worse than a breakup. And even though I didn't think they were winning the World Series, it feels the thought right now that I have to wait until the end of March to watch my team play again.
Yeah,
is awful.
Right.
I want to cry. Like I need a good cry right now. It's that bad how much.
See, I don't miss that at all. I don't miss that at all, but I was the same way. When they lost, well, this was different. When they lost in 2001 in the World Series, it was emotional because of 9/11. It was emotional because of the way they came back in those middle 2 games and just the way they lost in Arizona with Mo completely losing it on the mound. I cried for 3 hours after that game. And I was away on vacation with my best friend, and we were going home that next morning. I didn't speak. We were in Wilmington, North Carolina. I did not speak until we were just outside Washington, D.C., because she knew to give me my space, let me be, and then I let myself. I mean, that was more emotional because of 9/11 and compounded with that. But I've broken things. I broke a TV remote in 97 when they lost to Cleveland. When they lost to the Marlins in 2003. I think I broke a teacup. I threw that across my apartment against the wall, scared my cats. I mean, yeah, I don't do that anymore. So
I'm not really much of a sad crier in life.
Oh, you're an angry crier?
No, I'm a happy crier. The last time sports made me cry was when Panarin scored the game winner in Game 7 against the Penguins. I cried in that moment. I don't cry a lot of like sadness in sports moments. Not a lot of those moments made me cry. This one doesn't get me to tears.
Right.
It doesn't.
No.
I didn't think they were winning the World Series, but
also,
it still does hurt.
It's just, I'm going to say it for the 5 billionth time that I've been hosting the show. And I know he wasn't at the plate, so he didn't have anything to do with the horrible at-bats, but this team will not win anything with Aaron Boone as the manager. And we need to accept the fact that every time this team makes the playoffs with this manager, no matter who is on the team, they are not winning the World Series. They may make it to the World Series, but they're not. You're just going to have to accept this, because at least when I was younger, I had hope that they could win, because they did win a lot in my 20s. And it felt more confident going into the playoffs. And it was more shocking when they lost. This isn't shocking to me. It's annoying, but it's not shocking, because I go into every playoff game series with this guy as the manager in the back of my head thinking, well, they're not going to win anything. So
it feels like every time they put the camera on him, though, I'm waiting for another I almost want his mind to stop, because I'm afraid of whatever he's conjuring in there, how he's going to screw the game up, how he's going to get his sticky, gross fingers into the game.
Yeah.
That just,
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Two teams overcoming injuries to reach 4-1 set to meet at Raymond James Stadium.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Croc, lots to get through here as the Bucs and 49ers meet again. And both of these teams, similar stories here. Both 4-1. Both have dealt with some major injuries to some key players. But as far as the 49ers are concerned, what is the biggest story there in San Francisco heading into this game?
I think right now for the 49ers is a couple of things. One, the 49ers just 4-1 at this point in the season, especially with all the injuries that they've been dealing with. I mean, Brock Purdy missing multiple games. George Kittle, I think he played a quarter, like literally one quarter of the season of an actual game during the season, and he's been out ever since. There's no Brandon Ayuk. Ricky Pearsall has missed time. Nick Bosa is down for the season. And somehow, some way, there's a plethora more of injuries, but somehow, some way, the 49ers have figured out a way to be 4-1. I think a lot of it is due to the play of Mac Jones. And Mac Jones has done a terrific job, doing what they're asking of him. Not like they're saying, hey, you got to push the ball downfield a whole lot or you have to be Baker Mayfield. But he's throwing the ball a ton, and he's been fairly efficient for the 49ers. And he has really helped contribute to this 4-1 record that the 49ers have started with. So, and he's actually 3-0 as a starter. So I think those are the two big storylines. Again, how the 49ers have been able to hold up with the amount of injuries to key guys that they've had, and Mac Jones.
Yeah, Mac Jones has been super impressive. I've enjoyed watching him play. I was joking on my last episode at Locked On Bucks that I feel like Christian McCaffrey has entered the world of witchcraft, and he's the one sucking the life out of all these other players. Because if you were going to tell me before the season started that the 49ers would be ravaged with injuries on the offensive side of the ball, especially, my first thought would have been, oh, well, McCaffrey was probably the first one to go down, right? That's how it always goes. But he's been outstanding this year. Mac Jones has been really impressive. And I look at both of these teams and think, you know what? When these teams do get healthy, they're going to be even more dangerous. So this game in week 6 could have huge playoff implications with the direction that both of these teams are going. This could decide who's hosting a playoff game when all is said and done. And I'm not going to run through the laundry list of Buccaneers injuries. I've done that. That's been my top story every single week this year. The biggest one on Wednesday was Zion McCollum, who was one of the remaining starting outside corners with Dean and Morrison both out last week. He was spotted on the sideline at Bucs practice with his hand in a cast and his arm in a sling. He hasn't been ruled out for Sunday yet because he went through a procedure on his thumb, but just another injury in the secondary for the Bucs. But I'm going to talk about a little bit of the positive for the biggest story about the Buccaneers heading into this week, and that is the duo of Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka. Baker has now entered the national conversation for NFL MVP with 4 fourth-quarter comebacks this season, and coming off of a game where he threw for 379 and 2 touchdowns while only throwing 4 interceptions. He's top 5 in passing yards, top 5 in touchdowns, top 10 in passer rating, only 1 interception on the year, and he's in the top 10 in rushing yards among quarterbacks, and he's done this without Jalen McMillan all season and without Mike Evans the last couple of games. But his top weapon has been Emeka Egbuka. He's top 5 in the NFL in receiving yards. He's tied for the 3rd most total touchdowns in the league. And to take it even a step further, he's the only rookie in the top 10 in receiving yards, and he has the fewest receptions of any player in the top 10 while having the most yards per reception of anyone in the top 25. Long story short, this kid is special, and he has been absolutely unguardable this season.
Yeah, it's been awesome just watching the ascension of him. And I mean, the conversation with how well he's been playing and almost looking like a veteran is going back to training camp for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was a lot of rumbling coming out. Like, oh, he can't be that good. And then you watch him play and it's like, damn, he is that good. So he's been awesome. But the biggest storyline, definitely Baker Mayfield. And I don't think it started this year. I think it started last year. You know, that was the guy, and I talked a lot. I used him as an example when talking about the 49ers and being able to overcome injuries. Everyone wanted to make all these different excuses for Brock Purdy. I'm like, well, there's a guy over there playing in Tampa who is dealing with injuries to his receivers, and he's figuring out a way to keep the team afloat and ultimately kind of help lead them to the playoffs. There's always going to be things that these guys are going through. There's always going to be things that potentially could hold a quarterback back, and it's on the QB to figure out how to rise above all of that. And I think that started last season with Baker Mayfield throwing 40-plus touchdowns, and then it's carried over into this season where he's starting off very hot, and watching him really duel it out against Sam Darnold. And it was almost like, okay, who's going to blink first? It ended up being Sam Darnold throwing the interception late. But Baker Mayfield, he's been awesome. And he's one of the guys I feel like when you look at the 49ers, where they're at defensively, a lot of younger guys that they've had to count on, especially with the injuries, not having the pass rush you ideally would like. You look at Baker Mayfield and say, man, that's a guy that's dangerous. So how do you get him uncomfortable? How do you get him to potentially turn the ball over? I think that's probably one of the 49ers kind of pathways to winning this game. But that's going to be very tough because he's playing football at a high level right now.
Yeah, and to touch on the 49ers situation real quick, I know we're early in the week. We haven't even gotten the official practice report on Wednesday for the first practice of the week, but it sounds like George Kittle really is not in play for this game. But any updates, any rumblings about Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, Jennings, some of these other guys that are potentially able to play?
Yeah, we'll see. I think we'll definitely know a little bit more by tomorrow, especially like Thursday's practice. Wednesday's practices, as we're recording right now, are typically like the first practice of the week for a lot of these guys. If I had to guess, I think there's a chance we see Pearsall and Juwan Jennings out there. I am not sure about Brock Purdy. It sounds like this is something that's going to kind of linger and carry on a little bit longer. So I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans should expect to see a lot of Mac Jones. And who knows how healthy Mac Jones is? I can't wait to see the injury reports on him today, because that's a guy who over and over and over again had to pick himself off of the turf. He grabbed his knee one time. I'm like, what's going on? It was like he was adjusting the knee brace. He was throwing up on the sideline, like throwing up on himself. So he was really battling through a lot of different things. But he is a warrior. He battled through it, and hopefully he's healthy enough this week, because if not, there's a chance Tampa Bay may see a quarterback by the name of Martinez, who I have not seen take a snap for the 49ers this season.
Yeah, my eyes were glued on Thursday night. I saw Mac Jones go down. It looked like he was grabbing his calf, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This kid is playing so well, and he's in an environment where, almost not quite to the same level, but parallels to Baker Mayfield, right? He's in a situation that he's happy with. He's in a situation where his coaches, his players believe in him. It didn't feel that way in New England. Don't let him go down too when he's playing so well in place of Brock Purdy. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on those injury reports if you're a Bucs fan and you want to know potentially what kind of quarterback matchup you could be looking at.
Chiefs Lions on Sunday Night Football, a game I thought could be a preview of what we would see in this year's Super Bowl.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're going to start with the CB injuries with the Detroit Lions and how this game is going to start off, because that's one of the biggest storylines in this game. Matt, when you look at how this is going to play out, you were talking about it kind of before we even started the show. This is a huge issue for Detroit right now.
It is, Chris and Ryan. Great to be with you guys. And look, the Lions are playing great football right now. Many, including ESPN and the herd hierarchy the other day. I had it on my show on Wednesday of the Lions number one. People are power ranking Detroit up to that top spot where, of course, your Chiefs have been for so long. But right now, I mean, going into this game, you're still facing Mahomes, still facing Travis Kelce and good receivers. The Lions, their top 5 corners going into training camp in the preseason, 4 of the 5 are out. DJ Reed out for a while with a hamstring. Terrion Arnold going to be out at least this week and probably a few more with a shoulder. Ennis Rakestraw was put on season-ending IR at the start of the year. Khalil Dorsey now has an injury, their fourth corner, and he's going to be out for a little while, 4 weeks on the IR. So that leaves Amik Robertson, and then anybody's guess. I mean, Rock Yassin has played pretty well. They've got depth there. There's some guys they like, some young guys, and they've made some moves. But that's a tough road to talk about this week with Patrick Mahomes and next week with Baker Mayfield, without the guys that are stopping the guys on the outside. This is still a passing league. Lions pass rush has been really good this year. Hutchinson's playing unbelievably well, but I would think the Chiefs would be kind of picking on some of those corners, maybe just some home run balls down the field, hope for some pass interference or some holding, and find that as a spot that they can kind of take advantage of. What do you guys think?
I think that should be the way to go. I do see this as an offensive kind of game, back and forth. We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up here. But on the injury report on Wednesday, another name in Brian Branch, somebody I didn't expect to see on there. At this point, are there enough bodies in the secondary for them to man and be able to run their scheme the way that I think that sometimes they can be very successful at? And with the Chiefs having a wide receiver core that is either banged up, substituted, or trying to find its way, that might be an interesting matchup. Do you think there's enough bodies in the secondary to really put it out there and be able to play their full game plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think Branch and Kirby Joseph are going to be fine as far as the safety tandem goes. They're healthy enough. They'll be out there, and that's as good a safety tandem as there is in the league. Those guys just do everything. And Branch, I love that you mentioned Ryan, is just an absolute stud and a missile out there in terms of against the run, against the pass. Doesn't matter. He's a special player. So, yeah, I think they'll be okay. You're throwing in guys, like I said, Rock Yassin has played a lot of football. Avonte Maddox has played a lot. Amik Robertson's been really good. But, eventually attrition catches up to you. We saw that with the 2024 Lions. There's just you hope that that's it, and you hope that Arnold is back sooner than you think, and DJ Reed's back sooner than you think. But I think they'll be all right. It's just, right now, the way the defense is playing, the linebackers have been unreal, and the pass rush has been better than expected. And like we'll talk about when we get to the keys here and D-line, O-line, Lions could be adding Lee McNeil this week to their defensive line, which no one's talking about. He's been working out and training and rehabbing so well that they think he might be able to play. So that'd be a huge kind of pick-me-up for that defensive line, which has already played pretty well.
Yeah, and you look at that, and we'll talk about the defensive line and the offensive line in just a couple minutes, but you look at how this game is going to play out. It's kind of surprising to me, and one of the things I brought up before we started is the Chiefs are actually favored in this game, which, with the way that they've played, doesn't make sense to me at all, because they have played so horribly. And you also mentioned this, Matt. Kansas City kind of needs this game more than Detroit does. Not saying that should matter, but the reality is Kansas City's 2-3. Going to 2-4 is going to be really detrimental to anything that they want to do in the postseason. Being 3-3 and then getting Rashee Rice back the next week would be huge for this team. But the biggest storyline from Kansas City is the inconsistency. Week to week, it's just been so different. Like you look at week 1, the defense couldn't do anything. Week 2, 3, and 4, their defense was probably the best unit on the team. And then the offense started to come alive against the Ravens and then really looked a lot better in week 5, but the defense kind of fell apart a little bit towards the end of the game. So it's the inconsistency of this team and things that happened last year. I think they were 11-0 in one-score games. This year they're 0-3. You can't just the amount of flip-flop from what you dealt with last year to what you're dealing with this year is crazy. And you always revert to the mean, but it's a lot different than you would expect for Kansas City right now.
Chris and Ryan, I got to ask, and I'm assuming you guys have talked about this, but like even that last play where Trevor Lawrence falls down, and everybody now has seen the footage of Chris Jones basically just stop play, which you never see Chris Jones do, but like those things never happen to the Chiefs. And I know the national people, the Chiefs get all the calls. You guys got no calls the other night. It was wild. The
Thank
whistle
you.
that went against you. You have to say it. I know there is this narrative that Kansas City always gets the calls, and you went into that Giants game and everyone, there is no way they're going to lose on national TV and go to 0-3. But what is it? I mean, why is Chris Jones not Why does he just stop on a play like that when he never does that? Is it just one of those years?
It's one of those years where I think everybody has expectations. There's also the looky-loo thing of like, no matter what we do, Patrick's going to bail us out, right? This is superstar-itis is what I call it, because Chris Jones expected other people to make that play. He's been a one-man wrecking crew this whole season to this point. He's not getting a whole lot of support. I'm sure we'll talk about that coming up here shortly. But it's too much of expectation and not enough follow through right now. This is a team that has enough experience that they kind of expect things to fall where they're able to make plays. And that's not true of the rest of the league. The rest of the league's like, you know what? Go prove it. You're getting old. You have to play every play. And that's what's catching up with them right now. They have to buckle down and really focus on making sure that they execute their game plan the way that they have to its fullest, not just 90, 95%.
It's wild. It's not, no one's used to this. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, great, we need to see somebody new in the Super Bowl representing the AFC. And obviously it's pretty wide open. Look, the league is wide open, but definitely was a head scratcher. I thought you guys had that game Monday night. I really did.
You were not the only one. I was sitting there watching the game thinking, especially with the way the offense started in the first two drives, it looked like they were just going to run away with that game. And it was going to be a at least two score game at the very end. And then all of a sudden, a couple mistakes happened and they just kind of gave the game away in multiple different ways.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Missouri, Alabama, a huge matchup this weekend. Is it going to be more of the same? Does the dominant SEC team, do they hold serve, or does Missouri pull the upset?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You know what, guys, let's talk about this football game. And, all week, my listeners know this has been kind of my premise. I think if Missouri can make Alabama's offense one-dimensional, basically if they can stop the run, I think Missouri's got a great shot to win this game. What do you think of that premise?
I'll go first. I don't think you're correct at all.
Okay.
I think if you want to try and make us one-dimensional, you better try and make us run, because our best players are our wide receivers and our quarterback. I mean, I love Jan Miller. I do, and I've said he's the heart and soul of this team. I am pleasantly surprised how much he means to this team. Pleasantly. That said, he is not Najee Harris or TJ Yeldon or Derrick Henry or Trent Richardson or Mark Ingram or Eddie Lacy or any of the litany of awesome running backs Alabama's had. I'd go so far as to say he's maybe maybe a poor man's Brian Robinson. I mean, he may be Brian Robinson level, and I think Jan Miller can play in the pros for sure, and Brian Robinson is doing that very well. But I don't think the running game is Alabama's strength. I mean, I think all the stats back that up.
Sure.
And that's why ultimately, spoiler alert, I'll pick Alabama to win this game, because I think Missouri's weakness is probably the secondary and Alabama's strength is the passing game. And Ty Simpson's playing as well as any quarterback in the country. And when you look at Alabama, I mean, I don't know that there are many duos or trios as good as Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, and Isaiah Horton.
So I'll just say this. I love the pushback and disagreement immediately. We're off to a great start. But the reason I say that is because I'm kind of assuming this is more respect to Ryan Williams and Ty Simpson. I assume that Bama is going to be able to pass the ball fairly effectively against Missouri. The reason why I say they need to make them one-dimensional is because then that'll get Bama into some 3rd and 8s, some 3rd and 10s. And I've seen what Alabama looks like when they're one-dimensional. We saw that week 1 in Tallahassee, and it didn't look that great. So my thing is Missouri's defense, its run defense has been such a strength so far. I think if they can keep that up, that's why I think making Bama one-dimensional, that's where I'm thinking there. And what I wasn't saying, I'm not saying that Missouri needs to totally commit to the run. I think they have enough especially with Josiah Trotter, that front six, that front seven. I think they have enough that they can play that defense without committing to it. But Jimmy, what are your feelings on this whole kerfuffle that Luke and I just got into?
Just how wrong is John?
Just how
Jimmy?
stupid am I? Let me know, Jimmy.
Well, you got to take away something. You can't just let Alabama do what they want. Obviously, you got to, one thing that I think is really interesting, you just kind of halfway mentioned in what you just said, John, about the three. Missouri's defense and Alabama's defense are extremely similar because it comes from the same tree. Corey Batoon has spent a lot of time with Kane Womack, and the defenses look similar. This is kind of what you practice against, and I think that's interesting. It's sort of like, hey, this is what Alabama's offense goes against every day. This is what Missouri's offense goes against every day. The look of the alignments and the personnel packages are very similar. But in terms of how Alabama plans to attack Missouri, Luke's right in the sense that Ty Simpson and the wide receivers are the strength of the offense. If that's not working for Alabama, Alabama's in trouble, because I don't think Alabama's got a run game yet, or if they will at all in 2025, that you can beat a quality SEC opponent with the run game. The run game has to be complementary to what they're doing in the pass game, because that's where the strength is. It's Ty Simpson's arm. It's that deep wide receiver core. I do think Missouri's strength is against the run with Trotter in the middle. I think that's one of the better run defenses in this league. And I'll be surprised if Jam Miller has a second consecutive 100-yard game. I'll be surprised. I'll also be surprised if Ty Simpson doesn't have a nice day against Missouri. And the question will it be enough? But it really is, as much as these teams are similar on defense, John, they're different on offense. They do it two different ways. Alabama, it's going to be through the air. Missouri, it's going to be first and foremost on the ground.
Yeah, speaking of through the air, Ty Simpson, a guy, coming into this season, I think most of us were kind of wondering, who is this guy? He's been around for a while, has never really gotten the opportunity. I mean, he's exceeded all of my expectations for sure. I think he's been really good. I think everybody agrees with that. Well, what has it been about Ty Simpson that's made him such a good player so far for Bama?
I'm going to say patience, because what he did was he bided his time. He Mac Jones'd this thing. He waited around. He had some guys that were in front of him, and he tried his best to learn. He unfortunately was a part of the South Florida game, which is weird because he probably played the best of all the quarterbacks that played that day for Alabama. Yet people all summer long, I had people saying, Ty Simpson's not going to be the man because I saw that South Florida game. And I'm like, yeah, but we started the guy who was actually a lacrosse player, right? And he went back to Notre Dame, right? So Ty Simpson had this stigma about him for whatever reason. Now, Jimmy and I all summer said, Ty's going to be the guy. We loved Keelan Russell. We love Keelan Russell. Don't get me wrong. He's a true freshman that we adore. And Austin Mack is also a good quarterback, we think. But everything just pointed to Ty Simpson. Then in that first game, and it was not Ty Simpson's fault for the 10,000th time. It was not Ty Simpson's fault at all that Alabama was dominated by Florida State. It was a lot of other issues all over the team. And again, Ty Simpson was catching the flack because the quarterbacks always do. And that just comes with the territory, especially quarterback at Alabama. But give Ty Simpson a lot of credit, because the next game he comes back and he's perfect. He's 17 of 17. He's throwing darts. Then he plays against Wisconsin, throwing darts again, looking fantastic. I think at one point he was like 42 of his last 46 passes or something, 41 of 46 maybe, something ridiculous. He finally throws a pick. He goes to Georgia, by the way, and looks fantastic again. Even though we don't score in the second half, I think, hey, just get out of Athens with a win. Then you play Vanderbilt, an undefeated team that's very strong. You guys will play them later. You'll see they're good.
Yep.
And Ty Simpson throws his first pick, but he doesn't panic. I just think he's playing as well as any quarterback in the country right now. And I think part of it is his experience, that just being there, being at the different games, being at the different venues, even though he wasn't a starter at the time.
Jimmy, what's your take on Ty so far?
Yeah, he's a very unique blend. People that don't really know his game is a very unique blend of two things. He is the son of a coach, so he's got those intangibles. He's the son of a coach, not just the son of a coach, the son of a head coach, the son of a former quarterback, the son of a former quarterback coach. So Ty has grown up immersed in it. So he's got all of those intangibles you want in a coach's son. but he combines that with actual 5-star talent. He was a 5-star quarterback out of high school. They don't give you 5 stars in high school because they're impressed that your dad is the coach at UT Martin. You get 5 stars because of your arm, your size, your overall athleticism, the whole package athletically. So Ty's a unique prospect in that way. He's got 5-star tools, but also those 5-star intangibles. I think that's why, even though he's only started 5 college football games, he's been able to be good quickly.
Yeah, I like that he's been around for a minute too, and not only just with the previous administration, but with Kalen DeBoer too. I think just having him around for this amount of time, that 1 year to basically learn his offense from afar, watching Jalen Milroe do it for a year, I think that had to have helped him. Don't you guys think too?
Oh, sure. And your guy, Prabula, picked up the drink offense really quickly. I mean, to me, what Penn State does and what Missouri does is very, very different. But Prabula picked it up super quick. So it's much different than Ty Sims. Ty's been there, practically an old man, both in the offense and at Alabama. Prabula just gets off the bus good in this offense. That's impressive too.
Yeah, what Penn State does is very different from Missouri. They go to UCLA and lose, and I don't think Missouri would do that.
That's a great point. No, we're definitely not doing that. That is a really good point.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
The Washington Commanders are bringing the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL, along with some third down problems.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Jaden Daniels' return to the lineup for Washington last week has the Commanders feeling confident, but the team's glaring weakness is on third down, even on a pretty effective offense. Brutal test, potentially, over a turnover-hungry Bears team that defensively, Lauren, seems to live and die on big plays.
Yeah, that's kind of been their story. Like, they're not a great defense by any means, but they've just kind of scrapped and clawed and found ways to get the job done. Like when they played the Las Vegas Raiders before their bye week, it was a weird game where they had like 3 or 4 turnovers in there, but the Raiders only punted once all game. Like every drive was either points or a turnover, and only when they were like backed up in their own end zone did they end up really kind of punting the ball in there. So it was just kind of a tricky situation of like, if you can take care of the football, especially I think with the Commanders' number 1 ranked rushing offense against a really struggling Bears run defense that I know we'll talk about more as this episode goes on, I think they don't have to go big here. You can kind of game manage your way to a victory and wait for this defense to make some mistakes.
Yeah, and I think that's really got to be kind of the game plan here, right? I think the question, however, from the Commander side when it comes to that is Cliff Kingsbury kind of finally aware that his team, his offense is a rush first offense? You know, Cliff Kingsbury comes from the classic air raid, family tree and all that stuff. And Locked On Commanders fans have heard me talk ad nauseum about how air raid isn't actually just about throwing the ball down the field. It's about using the entirety of the field, which includes, of course, the backfield and the short area of the field as well. But, Cliff's brand of air raid certainly is a little bit deeper and likes to take those shots. We saw against the Los Angeles Chargers, he came out trying to go pass heavy, right? 2 of the first 3 plays of the game were passes, and that third play was a quarterback run. So he was very happy to have Jaden Daniels back. Now, fortunately for the Commanders, he did eventually move into the run game. He did end up leveraging that run, over 140 yards rushing for 3 out of the first 5 weeks. Twice they've run for over 200 yards. And this feels like a game that if Cliff comes out kind of understanding that and don't take the run away for the Chicago Bears and make them take it away themselves, then potentially they can have some of that similar success. But I know the Bears are also getting some help back. So what are they getting back this weekend, Lauren, and how could that maybe change some things?
Yeah, that's definitely kind of the big storyline right now is like getting healthier, but then like how much of a difference will that actually make? The big returns are slot cornerback Kyler Gordon, who we're kind of wondering, they've talked a lot this offseason about moving him around and not just keeping him in the slot. So we wonder, first game back, do they just put him in the slot and say, hey, let's start back where you were supposed to start before we get crazy? Or do they say, hey, well, the Commanders don't have any tape on us using you differently, so let's throw you all over the place in your first game back? That's one of the big question marks there. And then linebacker TJ Edwards. Both of these guys have missed most of the beginning of the season so far. It's been an impact in the run defense for sure when you're missing a linebacker and a slot cornerback who plays up near the line of scrimmage a lot and is a really key factor in that area. But it sounds like potentially still going to be missing somebody like Grady Jarrett on the interior of the defensive line, which is going to be a challenge there. And certainly some other players on offense that could also pose their own challenges here. But I'm very worried about the Bears giving up the league high 6.1 yards per carry and the Commanders gaining the league high 5.9 yards per carry. This is the, very movable object against the very stoppable, or the unstoppable force against the very movable object.
I like the way you put that. That number one rushing attack is producing 156.4 yards per game. That includes a week 2 performance from the Commanders offense where they only ran the ball on design plays 13 times. And, so season production, the average per game could actually be better had the Commanders tried to run the ball a little bit more in that game. And in the red zone, they're scoring every time down, not touchdowns every time. 10 of 14 possessions in the red zone have produced touchdowns. The other 4 have produced field goals, but no turnovers on downs, no turnovers in general. So that's smart football. Because, I was watching that Raiders game on the way back from Los Angeles, and I just came away. And it's only one game, right? So it's very dangerous to try to make any sweeping judgments. But from that one game, their last game on the field, I'm like, man, if the Commanders play their usually smart brand of football, protect the football, don't throw interceptions, don't fumble it, things like that, then they're probably going to have a really good chance of winning this game. But third down is the failure point for the Washington Commanders. If the Chicago Bears have a chance here, that's where it's going to come. 29th in the NFL right now, Lauren, 32.7% conversion rate. 33% is the floor, right? Like 33% is you're doing bare minimum, and they're below that. I talked to Dan Quinn on Wednesday about how you have the number one rushing attack, yet you have one of the worst third down conversion rates. He talked about discipline and how the penalties are, they're getting maybe 6 yards on first down, maybe 2 yards on second down, then they get a penalty and it sets them back anyway. So they got all those rushing yards, but they're still in third and, manageable, but obviously not desirable. Where's the Bears defense been on third down so far? And what do you think their chances are of continuing that trend for the Washington Commanders offense?
Yeah, it hasn't been like particularly stellar or locked down, but I am interested in the battle of the penalties here too. Like the Bears have not been great on third down by any means because they give up these big chunk runs on first and second down, and then it becomes third manageable. And it's sort of this bend, don't break, hope you get a turnover on them before they get all the way down in the red zone or in the end zone. But the Bears have had plenty of penalties on them on both sides of the ball as well. And I think I saw we got a refereeing crew that leads the league in penalties handed out this year so far through the first 5 weeks. So it's going to be a battle of like who can get out of their own way in some of these situations and who can play the smarter, more disciplined brand of football. And I think a lot of Bears fans are pinning hopes on, hey, at the bye week, they're going to have an extra week here now that they figured some of that stuff out. They've gotten the timing and the discipline and the communication better to avoid those penalties. Because I think if you picked up the Bears team that just played against the Raiders and then instantly went right in the Commanders game and did the same thing, I think they're losing that game. But if the bye week is enough to figure some things out and get a little bit healthier, like that's really what they're pinning their hopes on to be able to pull off an upset here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the Washington Commanders side of this thing, you look at the discipline, you look at some of those things. 13-play, 99-yard game-sealing touchdown drive in Week 5 against the Los Angeles Chargers. That's got to give you a lot of confidence coming into this week. That's the last time we saw this offense on the field was doing that kind of thing. So if you can take that into this weekend, obviously it gives you a really good opportunity. And you know what, Lauren, we made it over 8 minutes in this Crossover Thursday episode, and the words Hail and Mary have not come out of our mouths because the truth of the matter is, and I agree with quarterback Jaden Daniels, who of course was asked about it. There's no dig on anybody. It has to be asked about. It has to be talked about. But he said that Hail Mary last year is not going to do anything for us this year.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast.
We heard from Giannis after practice on Wednesday, and we heard from Doc Rivers as well, who found the reporting to be laughable. And I thought the most interesting part, I don't remember if this was you I was talking about it with or someone else, but I thought the most interesting part, we'll get to Giannis's comments, from Doc, though, was just asked about, like, how do you make sure this doesn't, like, fracture a locker room and start to become a distraction? And Doc was pretty upfront about it. Like, look, these guys have phones. These guys hear and see this stuff too. But everything we've seen, the way we've approached this, how we've communicated, I just don't think this is going to be an issue this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to keep in mind what the state of the locker room is, because although the rumors are solely focused around Giannis, it is going to have an effect on everyone else in that locker room. Giannis also made mention of that, of saying, like, when the season starts for me, I'm not on my phone. I'm not checking stuff as much, but I know everyone doesn't subscribe to that particular style of going about things. And with that being said, he knows that with a younger locker room, and he said, I have to lead through actions and what I'm doing and words, and make sure that they can see how invested I am in this team as well. So yeah, hearing from Giannis was fun. And we've talked a little bit offline of, like, hey, Giannis could kind of end all of this, if he came out and said what it is. And ahead of this season, yesterday, he came out and said, I am a Milwaukee Buck for this season. That part to me rang very clear in what Giannis was saying, which was, I'm locked in. There ain't no more conversations to have this season. The little flirtation lasts from when the season ends to when the new one begins. And now that we're here, I am locked in. Although he did leave that door open to say, if 6-7 months from now, I changed my mind, that's human. You can do that. And the first thing I did, Justin, was check the calendar. Like, please don't be February.
November, December, January.
Oh, no. Okay. So it's more like end of season that he's talking about, in the sense of, like, hey, if at the end of the season I reevaluate, doesn't feel right, I can change my mind then. But right now, I'm locked in for the Bucks. And honestly, once I heard that, that's all I needed. I know the noise isn't going to go anywhere, and I know next offseason is going to be loud unless the Bucks do something really spectacular this season. But to know for at least this year going forward, can focus on the basketball with Giannis.
I mean, I don't even think really spectacular. Like, if they do something spectacular in the wrong direction, it is certainly going to be extremely loud. But I think it just all points to what they can do this summer, and it makes the trade deadline even more interesting if you have something that's open there with what starts to become available to them over the summer. Obviously, there's an extra pick over the summer, but you have contracts that become interesting to dangle. So I think it's really just, if this team, and I wouldn't even say, like, hey, if they play as well as they did the last couple of years, because I do think a part of it is, like, we got to be better than that. Like, I'm not sticking around to just continue to be a 5 seed and kind of mirrored in the middle of the Eastern Conference. So I don't think they have to be like a top 2 or 3 seed and silence it. I think that would go a long way, but, like, just show the growth and show that this is a team that's still kind of lingering around where they were last. Even if they finish record wise, we mentioned on the last show that did we mention this on the show or off the air? I was talking with somebody who is very bullish on this team and kind of set their baseline at 48 wins, which is that's what they won last year, right? It was 49, then 48. And even said, I see a ceiling for, like, low to mid 50s for this group if things less and come together. But, like, even if you win fewer games, and let's say you're a 5 seed again, but you win in the first round, and maybe you win in the second round, or it's at least a competitive series where you can point to that and say, these young guys took a step forward. We got a lot more at our disposal this summer because, again, we're not butted up against the cap anymore, even though we got $20+ million in waived and stretch money. but we have other trade chips we can play that we think there's something here that people are going to want to play with you and the growth from the young guy that let's continue to lean into. That's the important part, not just like, hey, be a top 2 or be a top 3 seed.
I agree. I think it's more so with the performance of the team than like just the general standings of where they end up landing in this particular season. And even before the offseason really kicked off, I kept saying, I think this upcoming year is going to be like a retooling year. That was the word I kept using. We heard gap year and all these other things, but I was like, it feels like the first step into a new direction for the Bucs. And they're trying to get the guys that can kind of fit what they're envisioning it looks like for them going forward. And to your point about the draft capital that the Bucs will be able to use to possibly make a trade, bring someone in at the end of this season, I think that plays into that. If the Bucs can have a strong year in the sense of make it to the playoffs, if you can get out the first round, glory be. Like that's going to be a celebration after the last few years. But with that and finding pieces that can work around Giannis, having additional draft capital, we know John Horst is not scared or timid about making any moves that can improve this team. So if they can show something this year, like, hey, this is a solid base to build around, knowing John Horst and understanding that Giannis wants to be somewhere where he can win, I could definitely see next summer using some of those assets, maybe both the draft picks that will become available at that time, used to try to bring in some more talent for this team, especially if they show they take a step in the right direction. You have a bigger sample size to know, hey, we need this going forward. We thought we could get away with that, but actually we need this. So I think the door is still open for what happens after this season with Giannis, but I'm choosing to just focus right now on the here and now, enjoy the ride, enjoy the season, and then deal with all that other stuff as the season closes. Now, as you said, if we get off to a slow start, that can change things, I think.
That changed that 6 to 7 month window.
Yeah, it could be that 4 to 5 month window at that point.
It could be like a 2 to 3 month window at that point. And just to clarify too, it's not like I was just talking to some rando. It was somebody pretty well connected that very much believes in I'm not even gonna read it, but very much believes in this team. And it's funny too, I was listening to Nate Duncan's most recent season preview podcast that he does team by team. He had Jason Beatty on, who covers the Orlando Magic, and they were talking about Orlando and their chances. I think we've talked about this before. I think Orlando's going to be like the Cleveland of last year, not like 64 wins, but the team that just like makes a big jump in the regular season. They both agreed. And Jason at one point said too, like, well, everything he was saying reminded me so much of 2018 for the Bucs. It was like, well, like we shouldn't celebrate winning in the first round, but like we have to celebrate winning in the first round. We got like, they haven't even won a road playoff game under Jamal Mosley, not let alone a series playoff game on the road. Like, so we got to do that. We got to get out of the first round, and the expectation should be home court advantage in the first round. And you're listening to all this like, man, 7 years ago, we were having the same conversations. And oh, by the way, maybe you should celebrate getting out of the first round of the playoffs because we're ready for it. Like we've already planned the celebration for end of April when that takes place. Hopefully this upcoming season.